Welcome to Escape Purgatory, a podcast where we rewatch Supernatural, then talk it through in the hopes that we can finally escape this show.
Join us each week, leave comments on upcoming episodes, and together we can escape Supernatural Purgatory. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
We have a guest.
Best time ever.
Yeah, returning again.
Danny has returned.
So happy to hear from you, Danny.
For people who might not remember, I was on the episode of Bedtime Stories.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
With like the fairy tales killing people.
Good one. Yep.
Yeah. Surprisingly sad.
Yeah, it was. It's such a good episode. And to be honest, also contributed my favourite blooper about Sam needing more MILFs in his life. So, like, that was the absolute, highlight to edit that in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did you release those bloopers
I
yet?
did, yeah.
Oh, I didn't listen to that. I need to find that. I think I just missed it. It does need more MILFs in his life, though.
So yeah, we are back this week. We're talking about season 4, episode 7. It's The Great Pumpkin, Sam Winchester. Danny, you being from America, is this actually a Charlie Brown reference?
I mean, the title is.
Okay.
I never saw that Charlie Brown special, so I have no idea what they have in common. Halloween, maybe? No idea.
I get it. It must be. They were probably just like, you know what? It's Halloween time. Let's find a Halloween special that we can poke fun at. Well, I guess the monster is Halloween themed.
Yeah. Arguably very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is actual, like, the personification of Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah, that was dumb. Okay.
No, it's fine.
Moving on.
So anyway, I asked to be on this episode because this episode's one of my favorites, and it's where I get my Tumblr blog title from, which my Supernatural Tumblr is I Have Doubts, and it's a quote from Cass in this episode. So I thought, if I could get on this one, that'd be nice.
I mean, arguably, I think one of the most important lines in Supernatural, this is a defining Cass moment.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a big one.
When we get to... I can't even speak because, like, there is so much Cass in this episode that I'm just like, hell yeah. But at the same time, there's so much Cass in it that I'm like, oh no.
There's this bit where Dean binge eats candy, and then afterwards he like holds his stomach, and that's kind of how it feels, like holding my stomach, like, oh my goodness, there was so much Cass. Oh. So bloated.
It's true. I was watching this, I was like, oh, this, at the moment this is a really bland episode, because I remembered this episode from the point that the angels appear. So I was watching it up to it, and I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of, why did Danny want to be on this episode? Because it's just a Halloween episode. And then they turned up, and I was like, oh yeah, that's what happens in this one. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, the like quote unquote A plot of Sam Hain and everything is it's whatever. But like the actual important stuff, which is I think a larger portion of the episode, all the angel stuff, is it's really good.
It is really good.
I think I've read at least 5 fics based in this episode specifically.
Oh, really?
Like years ago. I'd have to dig them out, but it's definitely it must be a defining Destiel moment, because as I said, there's fic written about.
I mean, there's fic written about every single second they have on screen together, so that's on a good measurement.
Yeah, it's not narrowing it down a lot, to be fair.
100,000 fics, right? So
I think we're well over 100,000 now.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's such an aggressive amount of fanfic.
It really is. It really is.
But it's also not enough.
It's not enough, but also it is too much a little bit. It's like, okay, calm down. Except please don't, because this is entertaining.
Okay. Should we get into this episode?
Probably.
I know, right? This episode was written by Julie Siege and directed by Charles Beeson. I don't think we've had anything written by Julie before.
No, this is her first episode. She doesn't do that much that's noticeable, but she does do the monster at the end of this book later in this season, which is there's 2 really important cast episodes about his relationship to heaven.
Yeah, which is definably like the most important thing about Cass in this season is really we get the first impressions of him as being kind of a dick. But I think this episode and then later on is when we see just how nuanced his character is.
Okay, speaking of him being kind of a dick, this is my favorite piece of trivia I've ever seen on the Supernatural Wiki. Mm-hmm. It's in the trivia section. It says this episode reveals Sastiel to be something more than just a dick with wings. In quotes, dick with wings in quotes. Why is that part of the trivia? Why did you have to? It's really good.
What's funny, you saying that? So I'm heavily tattooed. I have a lot of tattoos. I wouldn't say I'm heavily tattooed, but I have a lot of tattoos, and there's one person that has done most of them, and obviously I go through his Instagram and like see what he's done, and he has literally done a dick with wings.
That sounds like a great tattoo. Okay, what would be the best place in your body to put that?
Yeah. Wait, were the wings like either side of the elbow joint? So if you like moved your elbow, would the wings flap on this like dick angel?
I don't know.
The hospital symbol of like the snake around like the staff or whatever,
yes.
And I'm kind of picturing like an artistic version of that because it's got like the wings and I just feel this would look a little bit like the hospital symbol.
I can see that, but yeah, instead of a snake, it's just a dick.
Snake is just yes.
I can't put any of this in. This is all going in the blue. You know that, right?
There's some sort of connection between an apple a day keeps the doctor away and like the snake in the garden with the fruit of knowledge. Yeah. There's something there.
There is something there. There's something. Yeah, you're right. Some kind of thing about temptation and wings and staffs. Like.
Anyway, let's actually get into this episode because we haven't even got there yet.
We haven't.
We're already talking about dicks with wings.
Arguably more important.
I think so. I do. I do. All right. Go for it, Annabelle. Take us through.
Okay, so we start with the recap, which is it was a lot. I couldn't really follow it because there was so much going on in it, but it was like a whole bunch of monsters from season 1.
There's a pilot like shot of Sam in the pilot at like the Halloween party.
Yeah. And like talking about how he feels about Halloween and stuff. I'm just like, whoa, massive throwback. Okay. And then we got some information about the seals. One of my favorite lines from Cass of like, you have to show me some respect. It just sends chills through my body and I love it.
Speaking of being horny.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely does it. Okay. And we see like Halloween decorations out and about and a woman walking into a house and she's got like some grocery bags and a giant pumpkin. And we cut inside and we see this man feeding his baby, like presumably like pureed pumpkin because it's orange.
I didn't even notice that detail.
I missed that.
We never find out what Mrs. Wallace's name is, but we find out that her husband is named Luke. He's sort of making a joke about how much candy she bought. So Mrs. Wallace and the baby, they go off and Luke stays behind to steal a piece of candy. He bites into it. It's all fine. And then like he kind of feels something in his mouth and they do the most disgusting shot ever. And I don't know why they did this. And they do this later on, like way later on with being in someone's mouth, Dean's. And they show him like putting his finger in his mouth and pulling out a razor blade, and I'm just like, oh god, no. This is a visual I'd never needed.
I think it's the worst shot in all of Supernatural.
I agree with you. I think that is...
Because they made up like a prop mouth to put the camera in so that the guy can then reach in to grab the... It's so realistic and visceral, and it was not necessary.
Not at all.
Why do we do this? Why do we do this?
I swear they made his... maybe not, I don't know, but I swear they made his mouth too small, because like his fingers are like way in there, and like there's no room for him to... It's so gross. I really hate it. And then he starts like coughing, and he spits up another razor blade, and he eventually like basically gets cut up from the inside out.
Yeah, he just
and
dies on the floor. Covered in blood.
But there was no need for the mouth shot. There's zero need for it.
It was so intense.
It really was. And like, oh God, I don't even want to think about it to describe it, but I hated every minute of it. They made a prop
mouth for that shot. Why did they... No one needed this. No. How much money did they spend to give us the most dramatic shot ever?
You know what they could have done with that? They could have paid Misha more for his minutes on screen and given him more lines. That's what they could have done instead.
More lines? He's got a lot of lines this episode.
I will always take.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So it's now the next, like later on in the day, or maybe the next day. Whatever. And Sam is now interviewing the wife. He asks the wife how many razor blades that they found in her husband, and I'm like, wouldn't you have found that out in the coroner's report? Anyway, doesn't matter.
But they're not real policemen, Annabelle. They haven't read the report.
Oh yeah, we've already discussed this, haven't we? That like they don't read reports. So yeah, as Sam's interviewing Mrs. Wallace, Dean is like looking around, and she sort of notices him open the oven,
and she's pretty upset. I don't just mean like crying. She's like pretty annoyed at them, and like she's like done with the crap. Like already, we haven't even seen the crap they've given her, and she's already done with them. It's great.
I guess because they're asked kind of not irrelevant questions, but it is kind of irrelevant. And also, you know, there's the whole like urban legend of finding razors and candy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not real. It's a myth.
Yeah.
Well, and then Sam asks her, like, could you have been having an affair? And she's just like, why would someone try and kill him by putting razor blades and candy he might eat?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, how did he eat so many that they ended up in his stomach? Because that's not...
You would stop after one razor blade candy.
It's not
Which is exactly what he did. Yeah.
But magically, of course, there's more razor blades than he actually consumed.
Exactly, yeah.
I love the like little interaction that Sam and Dean have when Dean eventually... So Dean notices that the fridge has made marks on the floor where it's obviously been moved, and he finds the hex bag behind the fridge. The silent communication that that Sam and Dean have of like, God damn, we're dealing with witches.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it.
I think I noticed for the first time, or like realized for the first time of like, where do these witches get like the cloth for their hex bags? Because they always look like medieval, like peasant cloth that's like 500 years old. It's like always like the oldest.
The Red Fair.
Yeah, it's just like, why don't they ever put in like a dishcloth or some nonsense? It's always in really old material that looks like maybe it's human skin. It's great.
Yeah. It always makes me think, when I was a teenager, there was a shop in our hometown that sold all like magical supplies. Did you ever go there, Annabelle?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, of course I did.
We were teenage girls, so we thought that we were witches. But it used to sell all sorts of stuff like that. And I reckon if you went in there, you probably could have found something that would make a hex pack that would easily resemble this. Do you know what I mean? Like it had kind of crystals and bits of like animal bone and all sorts of things.
I watched this episode with my sister, and she was wondering, is there like a Goodwill for witches? Is there like a place you can get gently used burlap?
What's really, really funny with that is that, so last Halloween, I went up to Boston, to Salem specifically. They had a whole bunch of like witches shops and all that kind of stuff. Of course they did. It was I had a really good time, but like going through the shop, I did not notice any burlap. Not a single piece of it anywhere. It was all like they had all the bones, they had all the crystals, they had all of this, that, and the other, but like no containers. All their containers are like little boxes.
I love you were looking out for this.
You were looking for...
Well, no, I wasn't looking out for it, but like now that you've mentioned it, I was thinking back to it and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't notice anything like that.
I maintain, where do they get the cloth?
Yeah, great for witches. I like the Goodwill idea. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. You actually have a really good point, because so in the next scene, Sam is looking through the contents of the hex bag, and everything is centuries old. So you would presume that the cloth is also centuries old.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, okay, here's an interesting thing about that. So, like I said, I was watching this with my sister, and my sister is an herbalist, basically a witch. And cool. There's this whole bit where Sam's going through the contents of the hex bag, and he's like, this plant, gold thread, it's been extinct for 200 years. It's not extinct. It's still around. It's thriving in California. It's like, my sister knows about it. She's seen it in some like products, I think.
I mean, yeah, that's classic supernatural stuff, just claiming things that aren't true. Like, I love that so much. Like, I think there was another witch episode where this woman was growing herbs in her garden, and he was saying like, oh, these are all like kind of rare herbs you wouldn't find anywhere. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's fine, I got some growing out the front. Would the Winchesters come round and think that like I was a witch just because I'm growing some like mint?
Yeah, it was something like it was out of season, even though it really wasn't, or something like that.
That was the one. Yeah, you're right.
I'm fascinated, like, what this gold thread herb could have been used, like, how it was helpful for this hex bag, because I guess it's like a antimicrobial. It was used to, like, treat malaria back in the day. Oh, cool. It's just like, how does this add up to razor blades?
Oh, I guess if it's... Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess if it's like an anti-malaria... Ooh. Yeah, maybe if it does the opposite if it's put in the hex bag, because like malaria affects your blood cells, right? Because the parasite explodes your blood cells essentially. So maybe if it kind of does the opposite, it kind of would help him like bleed everywhere. It kind of works.
Well, then we need to talk about the rest of the contents of this hex bag. There's like a Celtic coin.
Yeah.
And then there's a bone from a baby.
Yeah. Why?
There's a charred baby bone.
Nice.
And this is crazy. This is absolutely crazy, because Dean's instantly like, ew, that's disgusting. And Sam's like, relax, dude. It's over 100 years old. And so, first of all, how does he know that it's like 100 years old? Where did he get his degree in like examining like the age of charred bones?
Yeah.
And B, it's still gross. It's still a baby bone, even if it's 100 years old. That doesn't change what it is. Like, Dean's reaction is valid regardless of how old the bone is. It's a wild thing for Sam to say.
If you think about maybe how Sam identified this though, because one of the ways you identify bone compared to rock is you lick it. Because bone is porous, it will like stick to your tongue, whereas rock won't.
So what you're saying is Sam licked that bone?
Sam licked the bone.
He licked the baby bone. Yeah. Why?
It is funny, talking about the content of a hex bag, because I remember in season 1, Missouri talking about each item and what it did. Mm-hmm. It does matter what's inside, and like none of the stuff makes sense inside, and like they never explain what it would do. Like, he just explains what they are and like can sort of surmise where this is going because of the ingredients, but it's just like,
well, yeah, by like that standard of just like, it's just stuff. Like, if I had some like herbs from like the cupboard that I threw in like a bag with some stuff from my junk drawer, am I going to create like a hex bag?
I mean, yeah, I guess a lot of the witches is like intention too. Like, you can real kind of infuse your I don't know, hatred for this random dude.
Yeah, just random dude. Something we missed before the hex bag thing is Dean comes into like the motel, and Sam's like, you know, he's going through the hex bag, but as Dean walks in, he's like eating candy.
Really? After that guy choked down all those razor blades.
It's Halloween, man.
Yeah. For us, every day is Halloween.
It's really good. He just saw death by candy and he doesn't care.
Oh, I love him and his like flagrant disregard for his own safety.
They know it's a hex bag, so why would he mind?
I guess.
Like, the hex bag was in someone's house.
Okay, sure, but Sam's actually got the hex bag right there, though.
That's true. That's true.
And he's eating candy with the hex bag in the room.
When does a hex bag lose its power? Like, when you open it up?
When it's found, maybe that's when it loses its power. It's just because we see that in the show of like they'll just find a hex bag and then just like put it somewhere. Like they just put it on like a nightstand. It's like that's still in the room with you. Just because you found it doesn't mean it's suddenly safe, right? Unless it's a hex bag is safe the second it's been found.
Maybe.
But that's the real magic. It's just being out of sight.
And so we also learned that Luke Wallace is so vanilla that he makes vanilla look spicy.
I like
Which my sister responded to that vanilla is technically a spice. Which I said is such a white person thing to say.
You could still be right, but be incredibly wrong.
You could still be right, but you're still very white.
Yeah.
So we cut to the next scene and they're in like some sort of basement and it's nighttime. And can I say, I hate this. I was like, oh, I hope these guys are not, all these girls are not high schoolers. Oh no, they're high schoolers. And they're...
I thought it was a frat party. I thought it was a college frat party.
Yeah,
Until
me
my
too.
sister corrected me. They all look not a day younger than 30. Every single person at this party.
There's a sexualization of teenage girls in this episode that is not okay.
Not okay.
It's not okay, except they all look like they're 30.
Yeah. It's very...
They're the same age as Dean.
Right? It is very American high school aging of the actors here. Like, they all cast them... And
No, but this is worse than usual.
Yeah. The only thing I did wonder was, is the nurse outfit a throwback to Jessica?
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Be it. Yeah.
Because I did. The only reason I thought of it was because we saw her in the flashback. I don't think I would have thought of it otherwise. Not flashback. Recap.
Previously on.
But yeah, there's some real icky comments in here. There's some stuff that goes down that I'm not on board with.
Yeah.
No.
Should have guessed that they were high school. I didn't catch this at first, but I say in quotes, sexy nurse, which is definitely, she's a child, so she can't be. And a sexy cheerleader, again, not possible. And it's Tracy and Jenny. And I didn't catch that Tracy asks the boy there, like, have you broken into the booze yet? And
Isn't the previous episode you guys watched Yellow Fever?
Yes.
That episode ends with Sam, Dean, and Bobby sitting on like their cars drinking, and then Bobby like drinking a beer, and then Bobby's like, "Okay, I'm gonna head off," and he gets in his car and drives away.
Yeah.
And it's like so.
Oh yeah, the whole...
Safety or legality in regards to alcohol is not really a thing in this show.
I think we did make the point that Dean does drink and drive in that episode even before that. You made that point. I'm
so
sure
is
you did.
Bobby though.
Yeah.
He just had a beer and then drove off.
Oh, Bobby. I didn't even spot that, actually.
I mean, I know that that's water to them, but still.
I know. Yeah, that's bad, actually. That's bad. I'm surprised that got through, like, standards.
Right? This would have been, like, 2008 or something?
Yeah, 2008.
Yeah.
Different time. It's a different time.
I say 2008. I was the age of the kids at this party then, because I was 18 in 2008. So like this, and then also having weird FBI guys joke about hitting on me that I know of.
The only saving grace for this like next little scene is that Jenny and Tracy are not fighting each other for Justin, which is the boy that they're talking to, attention. Yeah, like they're still friends even though they want the same person. So I'll give them, that's the only thing I'll give them for this.
Does the one chick die?
She does.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if they're friends. Friendship over. Yeah. So in this scene, there's like they bob for apples, which is insane. Because these are women who are like clearly trying to dress up sexy, and like you're putting your face in water. Like, what about your makeup? Like, there's no woman's gonna do this at like a sexy Halloween party, like quote unquote sexy. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're not gonna ruin their makeup to bob for apples.
I've never saw the appeal of bobbing for apples ever. Not once.
No, it's horrible. Like, so Tracy's the way that she did it is never possible. Nope. Jenny, however, is exactly how it's actually like to bob her apples. I've done it one time and I never did it again because I was like, I drowned. This is what it feels like. Why would you
this badly?
No. When Jenny goes to do it, she can't grab an apple. Like, she's just sort of pecking at them. And then she gets stuck. So it looks like she's drowning and can't like pull herself back up. And then eventually the water starts to boil.
And all I could think was cast in and protect her like the way he protects Jimmy.
Oh. That's so right. Oh man, I can't wait to watch that with like Jimmy sticking his hand in the water. It's become such a meme to me now that I don't know if I'm going to watch it.
We then cut to Sam and Dean arriving to the basement, and Dean's being gross. That's a high schooler, Dean. Can we start saying that this is not okay? Like, even if she's 18, that's not okay.
It's absolutely not okay, but it's also difficult to take seriously because, again, the actress looks like the same age as Dean. It's like, okay, this is fiction. It's like, this is a moment that brings you out of it. It's like, this is very much a thing that these are actors.
Yeah.
I think there's another comment like that later on in this season with After School Special.
It's rough.
What is great is that they do eventually stop making these types of comments later on the show.
Yeah.
Dean asks Tracy, like, did you know Luke Wallace? Introduces himself as FBI. She denies the fact that she ever knew who he was.
It was a really quick scene. Like, this scene I felt was almost unnecessary. They could have just walked in, like, been like, found a hex bag and like left it. That to be fair, that was pretty much the scene.
Yeah, it was that plus the jailbait thing.
Yeah.
So we're back at the motel room, and Dean is the computer, and Sam is looking at some books. And Dean is like, well, you know, they're both squeaky clean. There's no reason for any sort of payback. And Sam says, okay, well, it may not be about payback. It may actually just be like a spell. And it says, check this out, which I just love. We haven't heard it in a while.
I know, I still love it.
Really? I could have sworn it was in every single episode of the show.
I don't, this kind
Does
of
Sam
like...
die if he doesn't say it every 24 hours?
I think he might. It's part of the demon blood curse thing. Yeah.
Well, okay, it's check this out. So check this out, and get this.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
I love Sam Winchester in this episode. I actually wrote on one of my pages for my notes just I heart Sam Winchester.
Oh, he's great in this. Yeah, I've got things to say about Sam in this episode.
Yeah.
So Sam reveals that it's 3 blood sacrifices over 3 days. Just so happened on the Celtic calendar, the final day of final harvest is October 31st.
So Sam does go into a whole thing here about like Halloween. It's just not, I don't know if that's true. Like the whole idea of Samhain, I'm pretty sure Samhain's just the name of Halloween. I don't think it was like whatever this anti-Santa of Halloween is. I think it's making up.
The Krampus of Halloween.
Yeah. Like carving pumpkins to worship him. I'm like, what?
The mask thing is true though. I've heard that before about Halloween. People covered their faces to hide from demons. And that's where we get all the costuming.
I think it's
that's
more
what I've heard.
The dead generally, because it is supposed to be. He's right with the like thinning of. I mean, people are going to correct me on this now. The thinning of the veil and things. I think that the lights are kind of both supposed to be welcoming good spirits into your home and warning bad spirits away. So that's kind of true. I guess you can apply it. Do you know what? I love Sam Winchester so much in this episode, I'm going to let it pass.
Sam Heem is a demon that got exorcised many, many years ago and can only be brought back every 600 years for some reason. Probably not true, but, you know, there are always things. And it just so happens that this Halloween is obviously the 600-year mark, which is very strange because it's at 2008, but then I'm also realizing that's the Christian calendar, so it means Jack. Anyway.
How did they know it was 600 years to the day? But okay.
Because these things are happening, that's why.
Okay, fine, yeah, sure.
Even sort of Dean questions this. He's like, naturally, of course it is.
that's
We're
the
in
reason.
Town.
Okay, that's the real reason all the stuff with the breaking of the seals and when Sam and Dean were born had to take place. It's all around. All of this was pushed forward to this exact date to make room for Sam Hain. That's the real reason.
Absolutely true. You're right. Oh my gosh.
Lucifer Rising is on Sam Hain's timetable, not the other way around.
Clearly a very important demon.
By night's end, we are talking every awful thing we've ever seen. Everything we fight. All in one place.
And I was just thinking, oh, season 15. The first 3 episodes.
Yeah,
it's kind of.
Wasn't that bad though, was it? It wasn't that much of a slaughterhouse.
No, it's kind of okay. Like it was just kind of worked out.
Yeah, they've had worse.
The only reason why it wasn't worse is because they had a team of hunters with them.
The team of hunters,
look at
and they had a
that.
powerful witch.
Yeah, there's that too.
On their side this time.
Rowena was
Badass. Badass.
So we cut to Dean in the daytime, sitting in the Impala, just like gorging himself on candy.
This was so relatable to me. I've definitely like ended up with a pile of candy wrappers right next to me and just been like, what have I done? I'm a monster.
It makes my tattoo true to form. So the person who did my tattoo has a thing of doing what's thick boys. So she'll take a whole bunch of just regular characters and just make them fat. And it's amazing. And so the Dean on my leg is actually a little chunky. And that's exactly how he would look. Let's be real.
I think the only way he could be, they're actually thin in the show. The only explanation beyond Chuck being horny is it's just that they probably go along a lot of periods of time without eating, doing hunts, and then they're also like running for their lives a bunch. That's my only assumption, is that they binge eat and then they don't eat, and it's unhealthy.
I think, it's incredibly unhealthy. Yeah. So, he looks a bit sick and his phone rings. Obviously it's I mean, he looked at the ID before he answered it, but like clearly it's, who else is it going to be, Dean? Like you have Sam and you have Bobby in your phone. That's pretty much it.
Every 4 seasons, an old contact of John rings them up, so,
that's true.
You gotta, look for that reason.
Just in case I'm gonna have some, dad trauma to talk about today while he's eating candy. So, they have a chat and Dean's watching the wife of the guy who coughed at those razor blades, that he's not seeing anything, until eventually he notices, while he's on the phone to Sam, Tracy appear and go into this woman's house. So she's clearly the babysitter. I think she takes the baby as she walks in. Dean kind of he doesn't explain this to Sam. He's just like, son of a bitch, which is classic. He said it's interesting because they're looking for a really old witch and they found this teenager instead.
Interesting look for a centuries-old witch.
Yeah, well, if you were a 600-year-old hag and you could pick any costume to come back in, wouldn't you go for a hot cheerleader? I would.
I know that this is supposed to be more of the Dean is attracted to cheerleaders thing.
Yeah.
But wanting to be a cheerleader is very different than being that's not that you're crossing like streams and they don't connect.
Yeah.
You're just trans, sweetheart.
It's said with too much sincerity. I think it's
a lot of sincerity.
Right?
It's like he's like, not just sincerity, like he's thought about this before. He's dreamt about becoming a cheerleader.
Yeah.
What's funny though also is that you could interpret that as like he would just come back as a male hot cheerleader.
Oh my god.
Right?
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm sure they exist. I mean, obviously male cheerleaders exist.
Yeah.
He just has hot I mean, obviously the implication is to come back as a teenage girl. He does not understand what he's asking for.
No. Well, I mean, he might. I'm a trans Dean enthusiast. I like to think that he did have, like, you know, the experience of puberty in like a female body as a teenager.
Season 4, like, actually, I do love this because I've seen loads of headcanons online, especially on like Tumblr and things about like, it's always tagged trans natural, which I also love. And I think there is a reading in, especially from season 4 onwards, that actually makes complete sense if you do read it in that way.
I absolutely think there's a ton of evidence starting in Lazarus Rising and going forward.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't mention it in Lazarus Rising, but yeah, the whole checking out the body thing, the way Bobby greets him, it's like, if anyone out there hasn't looked at it and is interested in this content, there's a lot out there, and it's a really good reading of this season. Generally, it's just really, really great.
Yeah, I think there's a surprising amount of evidence for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, we've got the Ghostface's effect that would explain, you know, why we don't see that we don't think he looks like he's trans. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, Annabelle, if you haven't heard this before, so it's a really interesting theory that basically season 1 to 3, Dean would be essentially in a trans man when Cass brings him back from hell because, you know, Dean's a dude. He rebuilds his body.
And then we see that moment where he looks at his chest in the mirror and is like, what, whoa. And, you know, and the way that like Sam and Bobby greet him of like almost like it takes them a moment to realize that it's him almost is like you can read that in their faces if you want. It's, it's pretty good.
That's a really good read. I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, it's fun as well. Like, I really love how people like take this kind of stuff and you find your representation in it. It makes me really happy.
Well, and there's more than any like character, I swear, that I know of. Dean refers to himself as having, like, he, in various seasons, he refers to himself as having hymen. He refers to, you know, his boobs, his nipples. At one point, he references, like, I'm gonna get toxic shock, which, like, what, like, dude knows about toxic shock? Like, like, what, like, you know, like, masculine macho dude knows about toxic shock?
Exactly. Right? Yeah.
It's all very,
This is kind of what I would like from a podcast or a convention or something, is to like people to present these kind of ideas to the people who wrote these episodes and be like, do you realize that it could be read in this way? And was there any intentionality to it? Because it would be really interesting to hear their thoughts on that.
One of my favorite things is that, especially in the earlier seasons, if you watch any shirtless scenes with Dean or maybe scenes when he's just in bed, he's almost always like covering his chest. Like there's a lot of shots where he's like got like a sheet pulled up, like he's a woman, like covering his boobs. Or even like if he's got a shirt on, but like in season 4, there's a lot of shots of him with like sleeping with like the coat on top of him, like pulled up over his chest, and there's a lot of like, it's like, you've got like chest dysphoria. Yeah.
I agree with you. I super enjoy it. I think people have taken it and put such a, like, the evidence is there. It's there.
Yeah. Especially with the Ghostface's effect. Yeah. Like, being able to hand wave any, like, but then why does he look like it? You know, stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, it's cool. Okay, so they kind of dug into Tracy as a person, and they found out that she got into a violent altercation with one of her teachers and got suspended from the school. And then we cut to the school, so they've clearly gone there to investigate this girl. And as they walk into an art room, like, Dean has this weird stare down with like a really creepy looking mask. But it's like every time we see the mask, there's this horrible sound effect over it. I didn't like this.
Well, because it's the hell sound effect. It's like it's screaming from hell. And if you look at the mask, it kind of does look like a distorted, like, hell face from like an old painting or something.
It does, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the masks that were on the side by him were like, whatever, like, fun painted, but all of the ones above were like
on the ceiling.
Sorry, yeah, we're just like, they almost look like peeled faces.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that came out of my mouth, but like it did.
It's very much reiterating that Dean's having kind of like flashbacks to hell, because if we'd seen him before he went to hell looking at this mask, he would have made like a snide comment about it or something. Yeah. But here he's just staring at this mask and like doesn't make a joke. So it's clearly something serious is going on in his brain at that moment.
Well, and like Sam's actually the one that makes the snide comment, because he's like, does that bring back memories? And Dean's like, wait, what do you mean? And Sam's like, you know, being a teenager, all that angst. And it's like that would have been the Dean comment in any other season would have been like, you know, to make a comment about being a teenager, but no, it's Dean just staring down this like hell mask.
Yeah, and that comment from Sam of like bringing back memories, there's a moment of panic in Dean's face, like, oh crap, does he know?
Yeah.
Yeah. He does eventually like kind of snap out of it, I guess, and he sees a kid putting a bong into a kiln and says, that brings back memories. The kid says, dude, I'm gonna need a bigger kiln, and I don't know why I really like that.
It's gonna need a bigger mouth.
Gonna need a bigger mouth, yeah.
My sister refuses to believe that Dean has ever used a bong.
I think I think that's all bravado too. I agree with you. I think. Yeah.
I disagree. Like, how else does he self-medicate? I mean, alcohol, of course, but like, I'm just thinking about like, especially like, you know, in high school when like John was away or during the Stanford years, like, man, he's gotta like find some sort of way to like boost his serotonin levels.
I don't know. Like Amy and I have spoken about it before, and I'm kind of inclined to think that like Sam was the one who did all the experimenting, because Dean had to be on top of it and protect Sam all the time, so he would never impair his mind like that, right?
Well, but the alcohol he clearly does all the time.
Yeah, that's true. But like,
he's got such an addictive, like he binge eats and he drinks a bunch, and everyone has pointed out that like he probably smokes though, right? Like he definitely smokes.
Yeah. That's true.
It's like, of course he's done, you know, he's done drugs. I don't know.
I can see it. The only reason it makes me think that he doesn't is because the references that he often makes are just pulled directly from like stoner movies. Like he's only known the pop culture references surrounding it.
He wants people to think that he's done drugs. Because so that they think he's cool.
But yeah, essentially it's all part of the like, I don't know, perception that he wants to give out, and I'm not even sure what that is at this point.
I don't think he knows.
Yeah, our guess is as good as his.
I think so. Yeah. So a teacher appears. His name is Don Harding, and he insists that he's Don to everybody. So he's a cool teacher. So yeah, Dean and Sam introduce themselves as FBI, as Agent Getty and Agent Lee. They asking about Tracy, and he explains that they had a violent altercation, just as it was said in her report, because he was trying to rap with her about her work.
Again, he thinks he's a cool teacher.
He thinks he's cool. He'll sit on the desk next to you and be like, "Hey kid, what's up?" Any kids actually like cool teachers? I don't think. I think they're just trying a bit too hard. There's a difference between being a cool teacher and actually being a cool teacher.
You can't try. If you try to be cool, then you're not cool.
Right.
That's like the definition.
Exactly. But yeah, apparently he was talking to her because her work had got inappropriate and disturbing, and Dean kind of turns and looks at the masks again like, yeah. And apparently she would like draw page after page of like bizarre cryptic symbols and then, you know, draw herself killing people. And Sam shows Don the coin that they had, the Celtic coin from the hex bag, and he confirmed that it was the same symbols. When they ask where she is, Don says she's probably in her apartment because she's an emancipated teenager, so lives alone. This was super weird to me because why does he give them all this information?
I mean, he's all of like the like double and like triple plot twists with the two witches is really confusing.
I agree, and also like weirdly unnecessary.
Yeah.
There was no need for I don't think there was any need for there to be two of them at any point either. I don't know.
Yeah, no, none of this witchy plot line really makes sense. It's like, I feel like they concentrated so much on the plot of this episode of like when the angels come in, that they kind of let all of this stuff fall to the wayside because it's just weird. It is. It's just weird.
Like maybe I'll talk about this later as well, but like the final thing of this where they do kind of summon Samhain, literally could have been her. Like the Winchesters could have shot her and then she gets kind of possessed by him, and there could have been a whole moment where he like overtakes her. Why was there the need for the weird like brother kissing thing? And anyway, right?
I didn't
like it. So they go back to the motel, and as they drive up, Sam explains that Tracy wasn't anywhere that he could find. Dean says, luck is not our style, which, okay, Dean. I do like the line, it's like the bitch popped a broomstick. Like, okay.
What does that mean?
Right. It's just a Deanism. Like,
I know, but that was odd.
It's one of those lines where I think, because I spoke about this before, whenever Dean speaks to Cass, he must be just incomprehensible. Like, if he had said that to Cass, he would just look to him like, okay, Dean.
The only, like, saving grace, pun not intended, or intended, is, Cass, like, knows Dean's soul, right?
Yeah.
Like, so he can kind of understand Dean because of, like, mystical reasons. Otherwise, they would have it would be, like, different languages.
Yeah. It's like speaking to aliens. Like, they could never have done it. Dean... This is a reference. Dean talks like he must appear to Cass. Have you ever watched that Star Trek episode? It's like Dharma Kanjala Dattanagra.
Yes!
It's that, right? He talks in memes.
Yeah, and like little stories, yeah.
Yeah, because again, Annabelle, I don't know if you've watched this, but the idea of the episode is like the universal translator works. Like it's translating it back into English, but because they basically talk in GIFs to each other. So like they explain it through stories, like so it's incomprehensible. It's amazing.
Yeah, all of their conversation is references to like cultural stories, right?
Yeah. Basically like how we would appear to any outsiders while talking about supernatural.
Yeah, like if I wanted to tell you I was making pasta, I would be saying like, well, I'm pulling a Jimmy or something.
Yeah,
you know, like, that's what it would be. It's just like that means nothing to anyone.
Right, exactly.
So basically, it's Cockney rhyme slang.
It is kind of Cockney rhyme slang. Yeah, it kind of works like that. Yeah, it's a great episode of Star Trek. Anyway, sorry, I can't go one episode without talking about Star Trek. So Dean and Sam walk in, and they are stopped by a little kid who's dressed as an astronaut, and they have this kind of like weird interaction with him. This astronaut's trying to extort them for candy.
Well, he's trick-or-treating like way too early for fun. Yeah. But it's also like such a needlessly hostile interaction.
Basically, like Sam says, oh yeah, we have a ton of candy in the car, but like Dean's clearly eaten all of it, so he's like, no, we don't.
Or he wants to eat all of it.
No, he definitely ate it all already.
Yeah, I think both possibilities are equally true. That's Schrodinger's candy in the Impala. Like eaten and uneaten. And yeah, the kid kind of gives Dean the stink eye as they walk off.
Well, you forgot about the bit where Dean like fat shames the kid.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
For wanting candy.
You fat shame him.
He's like, I think you've had enough because the kid's kind of chubby.
Yeah,
and but it's like It's like, Dean, you literally just binge ate what had to have been like dozens of pieces of candy like earlier this episode, like 2 scenes ago. You are not in a position to like fat shame this kid.
All black, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird, like, almost like cowboy standoff they have with this kid. Like, it's zoomed in on Dean's eyes and this kid's eyes are kind of staring at each other. I love it.
This kid is just like, he looks like he's gonna, he looks like a threat. This kid's a threat.
Yeah, this kid is a threat.
Yes. The only threat in this entire episode.
Yes, I would agree.
And does the most damage psychologically.
Yes, it does too. We'll get there in a second.
Oh my gosh. So they go into the motel room and Sam immediately draws his gun because he's shouting like, "Who are you?" And the camera zooms out and we see Sastiel in all his sexy glory.
He's like sitting on like the bed, like facing away from them, looking very sad.
Yeah. Dean immediately goes in and like, no, wait, that's Castiel, and then sort of clarifies the angel. Uriel is stood by the window. I mean, and Dean does say like him, I don't know who that is because he's stood with his back to the room, just ignoring them.
Yeah, they both are just facing away very melodramatically.
This scene breaks my heart. Actually, like I felt it break into. Sam is so happy to meet Cass.
I know.
Hello, Sam.
Oh my God. I didn't mean to. Sorry. It's an honor. Really, I've heard a lot about you.
He almost calls him sir, like I can almost feel it. Like,
Yeah.
And he walks forward, like holds out his hand to shake Cass's hand, who's kind of turned to face him. And it's just, it's way too long for Cass to shake his hand. Like, it's way too long.
Well, but it's like, has Cass ever shook someone's hand before? He probably doesn't fully understand it.
That's true. Yeah, no, okay.
It doesn't seem like he's snubbing him. It's like it takes him a moment to realize what it means.
And you. Sam Winchester, the boy with the demon blood. Glad to hear you've ceased your extracurricular activities.
If you watch his face there, he kind of looks a little bit happy to meet him. I always thought so.
Yeah.
I wanna pay homage to the Sastiel shippers here because I think this is like a big scene for them because I've seen like fan art of like when like of like the handshake where like they shake hands and then Cass like cups like Sam's hands. It's like he like holds his hand in both of his hands, and I mean obviously this is when they meet, but it's so interesting because Cass throughout the show is kind of consistently the only angel that like doesn't usually treat Sam like a monster. I mean, I know he says the boy with the demon blood here, but like generally he doesn't. Like if we see how like Uriel treats Sam throughout this episode,
yeah, that's
versus Cass throughout any of this really through this season 5, he really goes to bat for him. It's such. This is what gets to me. Destiel purposes. There's a lot to think about with like the faithless man falling in love with like the fallen angel. Like there's a lot there.
Yeah.
But from like a friendship or romantic whatever perspective for Sastiel, it's like the boy with the demon blood that's prayed his whole life and has believed in angels his whole life, but is constantly like snubbed and rejected by heaven, except for this one angel who who doesn't treat him like a monster, and it's very I get emotional about them. I'm not a Sastiel shipper, but
it's a very sweet love story by the sounds of it.
Well, there's a lot of moments in season 5 where Cass is like, he's very good to Sam in season 5.
Yeah.
It's a shame that they don't have as much stuff with those two later on in the show.
I mean, I have said before on the podcast, like I've always read of Sam and Cass as like best friends, and the fact that they become best friends against kind of the odds is wonderful. I really love their relationship, and I've always read it as Cass kind of tolerates Sam because of Dean to start with, and then he gets to know him, and they actually become incredibly good friends who have a lot in common.
I mean, one of my favorite things in season 5 is like, I mean, I don't know, spoilers, but there's the bit where he's Cass is like facing off against like Lucifer, and Cass is in like the ring of holy fire, and he maybe like walks straight into holy fire once like Lucifer like mentions Sam. Like Cass is like, he's like, you are not going to touch Sam Winchester.
Yeah.
Like he instantly like he's about to like tackle Lucifer as soon as he mentions Sam, and it's just like, oh
Yeah.
it's really nice.
I agree with you. I think Sastiel shippers have something there. There definitely is. I want to read this now. It's like he wasn't snubbing him.
Yeah, you should watch it again. I quite love this.
Again.
What's funny is I also read it initially as snubbing, but then at the same time, like, so when it first happened and he didn't, the long wait was like, oh, him snubbing him, but then he does look at Sam and look at his hand, like, as this is the first time a human has, like, even after knowing that I'm an angel, still doesn't fear me and doesn't want to, like, doesn't want to attack me.
Annabelle, that's so nice.
Well, but yeah, like he doesn't just shake his hand, but like like I said, he like cups his hand. It's like very, it's, I don't know, it's very gentle.
Like the responding touch from Cass is very, like, to me, when someone puts their hand on top of your hand after you shake in that kind of way, it's more like, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
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 Well, it's like from Cass's perspective, it's like Sam and Dean are a little bit celebrities. It's like the boy with the demon blood, the righteous man. Like I've read Chuck's awful books about you. We know he's read them. Yeah. I think he was excited to meet Sam.
You know what? You're winning me over, because if you actually imagine this the other way around, if Sam had gone to shake Uriel's hand, the reaction that would have garnered would have been awful. Whereas, you know, Cass, I think we haven't seen Cass kind of touch another person in this season yet. There's a moment in, I think it's episode 3, where he puts his hand on Dean's shoulder, and that's pretty much been it.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think he appreciated the fact that Sam went to greet him. I really like that.
And he's not rude or dismissive to Sam, really, like, at all in these seasons. Maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. Obviously, there's a time when he's drunk. That doesn't count, though. He's drunk.
and also the line about the boy with the demon blood. We know that Cass is socially awkward. Describing him.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I said to my sister was like, if the situations had been reversed and this was his first time meeting Dean, he would have been like, ah, yes, the righteous man, or ah, yes, the soul saved from hell. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a way of referring to these people.
Okay, yeah. Do you know what? You have won me over.
Yes!
My opinion has actually been changed.
I feel the need to stand up for the Sastiel shipper sometimes. I'm like, you have your work cut out for you. You have so much less content to work with.
They really do. And you're right, they really had 0 to work with in those final seasons, because there was no Sam and Cass interactions, which is really sad for me. Because I do love their relationship.
Yeah, me too.
Bit more aggressive from Uriel, but I mean, what else do we expect?
Yeah.
Uriel's not my favorite angel. I'm just going to put that out there now.
Uriel is such an asshole, but I really love him. Like, he's super enjoyable. Like, he's absolutely, like, I would try and punch his lights out if I knew him in real life.
Yeah.
But he's really fun to watch.
And he does explain why Sam and Dean think angels are dicks. He has a great narrative purpose. So Dean looks to Cass and says, like, who is your friend? And they don't really address who Uriel is. Cass just asks, have you managed to stop the raising of Samhain? And, like, basically interrogates him about, like, have you found the witch? Is she dead? Okay. And they explain that they know who it is, but they haven't really done anything about it yet. Cass says, like, well, the witch knows who you are too, and finds the hex bag that has been put in their room. It was in the walls of the room, so I wonder what would have happened to them if, well, I mean, they would have died, but if like, Cass or Uriel hadn't found that hex bag.
My sister asked a question of, like, how did the witch put it in the walls? Because that's where the hex bag was. And what I posit is that we see, like, a painting on the wall. I posit that the witch, like, punched a hole through the wall, put it in there, and then replaced the painting over it. Yeah. And that's where the hex bag was.
Maybe they took, like, the light switch off and put it in there. Because, again, like, if there's obvious damage, then obviously, like, it's
Yeah.
clear to where it'd be. But yeah, I didn't notice the painting. So my brain was like, oh yeah, they just, found an electrical socket and put it in that. But this is supernatural, so of course that wouldn't have been the way.
The punching's much more dramatic.
Yes.
Or like, did Cass or Uriel like have to like angel fly, like phase shift through the wall to like find it? What was this? What did this look like?
It would have been great if they had just like sensed the hex bag. So when Sam and Dean walk in, there's just a load of like, fish-shaped holes in the wall where these two angels have been trying to find this hex bag.
Also, to my point earlier, that the hex bag is intact and still in the room with them.
Yep. They found it and it's magically dissipated.
Exactly. That's my point. It's object permanence magic.
It's so good. And Dean asks Cass, why do you care? And it turns out that Sam Hain's one of the 66 seals. Cass is very much saying, like, Lucifer can't rise. We must stop the breaking of the seals. But they can't find this witch because they're not I can never say this word, not omniscient. The witch is powerful. She's managed to like cloak herself because, Dean's like, okay, fine, tell us where the witch is. We'll kill the witch. Done. Job done. Sam wants to work together because he's Sam and he's a lovely boy. And Guriel's just like, no.
So if we work together...
Enough of this.
Okay, who are you and why should I care?
His voice is so great.
Yeah, he's got such a great voice.
It's perfect, like spot on, like how I would imagine an angel in a vessel. They do give like Misha a lot of crap for doing like a deep voice for Cass, but I do feel like the other angels do it too.
I mean, definitely Uriel, yeah.
Yeah, Uriel did it too. He clearly, came on and saw what was going on and was like, okay, I need to lower my register.
Jake Abel as Michael kind of does a bit deeper.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Cohen for Michael briefly. I mean, maybe not like a lot deeper, but like it's still kind of like chest voice. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, I know what you mean though.
I feel like even Jensen does it for...
Yeah, totally. Everyone makes the voice lower for an angel, except for like the guy who plays Zachariah.
Oh yeah,
he just sticks with his normal like sort of sleazy voice. It's great,
which makes him stand out more as like almost like a bad. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like it makes him stand out more as a bad guy angel.
Oh, and of course there's Raphael, probably the deepest like voiced angel.
That's so true.
But I think that's the actor's voice. So
yeah.
that was choices that they made at that point to have. But I mean, if you think about it, it's a huge if you think how big an angel probably is, like a biblical descript angel is, to then try and compress it all into like a human vessel, like something's got to give, and apparently it's the voice.
Cass introduces Uriel and he calls him a specialist, and Uriel kind of dramatically walks towards them. As Dean asks, what kind of specialist? Cass says, you need to leave because we're going to destroy this town. Very dramatic.
Yes. Dean's like, so this is your plan? You're just going to smite the whole town? Cass says, we're out of time. This witch has to die because the seal must be saved. And Sam's like, well, you can't do that because there's 1,000 people here. Uriel actually knows how many people there are and still doesn't give a crap.
1,214.
And you're willing to kill them all?
This isn't the first time I've purified a city.
Dude, I love Uriel's lines and the delivery.
Oh, yeah.
He's very... Oh, yes. He's a dick.
He's not enough episodes.
Yes. And Cass tries to like smooth it over in his Cass kind of way and says, I understand it's regrettable. It's like, it's a little bit more than regrettable. We are back at the like trolley problem. Cass tries to explain why this is a good thing that they have to, destroy this town, in that, the lives of 1,000 against the life of 6 billion. Cass says there's a bigger picture here. And I do think it's interesting that Sam and Dean rarely look at the bigger picture. It's always about who the one person that they can save at this point. Like, you look back to, why can't I think of the episode? And I hate it because it's Hendrickson's episode where they all die. Anyway, you think of that episode. They were not willing to sacrifice the people that were there, and yet they all died anyway.
They're not very good at trolley problems, but like I think that's part of their charm.
That's the whole conflict between Cass and them in season 6, really, is can you do a little bit of evil to, like, save the many?
Cass is Spock, adding to my thesis, you know, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the one.
Well, I mean, like, Sastiel is clearly, like, the spiritual successor, or, like, not even successor, maybe, like, child of of Kirk and Spock.
Absolutely. 100%.
Cass just reiterates saying that, you know, Lucifer cannot rise. Hell raises with him, and he's like, is that something you're willing to risk?
And he says that very pointedly of like, Dean, are you willing to risk hell? Hint, hint.
Uriel just says, we're wasting time with these mud monkeys. Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
You think you're so cool. You are a little bit, but still.
Cass says, sorry, but we have our orders. And I hate this for Sam. He suddenly realizes that angels are not who they like.
It's me so sad for Sam.
Yeah. The thing is, though, in the Bible, there's like lots of examples of them just wiping out people. So, like, why is he shocked?
Well, how much of the Bible has Sam, like, read and paid attention to?
And, yeah, like, maybe cherry-picked, like, the
I mean, I know there's a Bible in every, like, hotel room. But...
Yeah. Because I do... I guess, like, you know, they've seen demons and they've seen hell, which are not particularly, like, mentioned in the Bible. So I think Sam goes with the, like, pop culture version.
A lot of you know, Christians, believers do, so, yeah.
Yeah, you know, of like, fluffy wings and harps and halos and things, and being out for the greater good.
If you're, like, your main, like, exposure to angels in the Bible is, like, Gabriel appearing to Mary, right? Like, that's, like, a relatively chill one.
Yeah,
there's not a lot of, like, death there. Unlike usually with angels in the Bible. Yeah. That's one of the good ones, I guess. He does impregnate her, but,
Yep. I don't think Sam's praying to the Old Testament God, you know? So it is kind of a shock, I guess, because he thought they do have this kind of, oh, you know, demons are the bad guys, angels must be the good guys. But then I don't understand kind of necessarily Sam completely believing that, because he's working with Ruby, like, he clearly trusts her, so he must know there's some grey areas between the two of them, like the demons versus the angels.
Dean, throughout, like, this entire show, once he meets Cass, he quite often, you know, like, denounces, like, all angels except for Cass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's pretty, like, anti-angel all the time, and his best friend's an angel. and he's not wrong to be, because most angels are dicks.
Yeah.
No, you can't do this. You're angels. I mean, aren't you supposed to... You're supposed to show mercy.
Says who?
Castiel says,
We have no choice.
Of course you have a choice. I mean, come on, what, you've never questioned a crap order? Huh? What, are you both just a couple of hammers?
Look, even if you can't understand it, have faith. The plan is just.
How could you even say that?
Because it comes from heaven. That makes it just.
It must be nice to be so sure of yourselves.
Tell me something, Dean. When your father gave you an order, didn't you obey?
Is this the beginning? Is this the beginning of him questioning stuff, really? Properly?
I brought it up before. I think 403 is where Cass starts a little bit of questioning stuff. He feels
this time around.
Yeah, because he kind of feels so... Like, when he takes Dean back in time, as he's kind of ordered to show him what happened, and then he sees how much it affects him, I do think that's kind of like, did I do the right thing? I feel like there's a bit of that end of the episode where he's like, did I do the right thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so weird to think about, like, when did Cass start questioning things?
Yeah.
In season 4, even though we know he's, like, rebelled in the past but had his mind wiped.
Yeah.
It's very, like, Groundhog Day, like, just he keeps getting reset.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in some ways, like, questioning is at the core of who Sastiel is, and that's why he keeps getting, like, mind wiped. You know, so
yeah,
it's such a part of his personality that I don't necessarily think there is a beginning where he's questioning stuff. I think as soon as he comes back from Naomi, he's almost immediately like, what's going on? Why am I doing this?
It didn't work.
Yeah.
I think he just inherently rebels.
Yes.
Dean calls them both. He said, "Are you both just a couple of hammers?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's calling them tools.
So yeah, it's just because it comes from heaven. Cass makes a horrible reference of saying, "Tell me something."
Sorry.
Tell me something, Dean. When your father gave you an order, didn't you obey? Dean doesn't have an answer for this, but the thing is, he didn't always obey. And he did eventually start to question. So, jog on, Cass.
It's almost like they're mirroring them, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, and also, Cass is bullshitting here.
Yeah.
Because based on what we know later in the episode, it's like it's probably because Uriel's there, right? Like it's not.
Just I love this. I love this line so much because Dean and Cass are so similar in some ways that. I've said this before, like, they're so similar, it must be in almost infuriating to be around each other because they're so similar sometimes, but it works for them. Because, I don't know, the foreshadowing of that line is awesome to me.
Yeah. So Dean says, "Sorry, boys, plans changed and we're going to stay here. If you're going to smite this whole town, you're going to have to do it with me here. And you went through a lot of trouble to get me out of hell. I don't think you're going to disobey the man upstairs to kill me." Uriel just threatens him, saying, "Well, I'll just take you outside of the town and do it anyway. Like, I'm an angel, bitch." That's how I read that.
Yeah.
Dean says, "Look, we can do this. We'll find the witch. We'll stop the summoning."
He's also like, "You'll have to kill me in order to get me to leave this town."
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous because they can just teleport him. But okay.
It's funny when Cass introduced Uriel, I almost took it as like Uriel being higher management than Cass. But this like little interchange, Cass just holds up his hand and tells him enough. I don't know what the power hierarchy is with these two.
Well, in this episode, it seems very much like Cass is his superior.
Yeah.
That doesn't exactly last throughout the season for reasons, but I think here he is.
Yeah. I feel like at some point that's not necessarily pinpointed, Cass gets a demotion.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I'm not going to go into it here, but they screwed the hierarchy of angels in Supernatural to the point that it's pretty annoying, but fine.
Yeah. They are basically dismissed by Cass. So Sam and Dean leave. They go back to the Impala, and the Impala is covered in eggs.
And Dean just yells out, "Astronaut!"
I love that.
He's so valid for egging the Impala.
Yeah. They deserve that. They were withholding candy from a child.
They didn't necessarily have any candy left, but but Dean definitely fat-shamed that kid. He deserves it. He deserved the Impala to be egged.
I just love it because he's so silently angry. Like, you can see, as Annabelle said, like, the emotional damage that did.
After this, do we see the Impala again? Like, does it have the eggs on it after this?
I don't know if we see the car again in this
Because
episode.
I'm just wondering if, like, they have this this tense encounter with the angels, and then before they actually drive off, they, like, spend 20 minutes cleaning off the Impala. With Castiel's, like, you have, like, one day to, like, stop the steels from being broken, like, go, I'm giving you a chance. And then they spend the next 20 minutes cleaning off eggs.
Yeah, I 100% believe that. It's vital to the investigation. Yeah. Dean couldn't function any further in this case if the Impala was covered in eggs. So.
Yes, exactly.
Because they are driving, of course they must have a conversation. And Sam looks pretty upset.
I mean, I thought they'd be righteous.
Well, they are righteous. I mean, that's kind of the problem. Of course, there's nothing more dangerous than some a-hole who thinks he's on a holy mission.
That's the interesting thing here is, like, Sam says he thought they'd be righteous, and he means that as, like, a good thing that they would be, you know, good people. And then Dean thinks of being righteous as, like, a bad thing of just, like, yeah, of course they're righteous. That sucks. Yeah. And it's so interesting to see that, A, that dichotomy, and B, the fact that Dean's the righteous man. Because being righteous sucks. There's just a lot there.
Like, being righteous is it's a sort of almost like a nondescript word. right?
Yeah.
Because it's righteous of what?
Yeah.
Because you can be righteous of something evil.
I mean, the thing is, he's seen hunters, I mean, John for one, but other hunters too, who believe they're on, like, a righteous mission and knows how damaging that is, like how obsessive and focused they get on it. I mean, Gordon thought he was on a righteous mission when he was trying to kill Sam. It's like, no one who's a bad guy thinks they're a bad guy, right? They think they're doing it for the right reasons. I mean, maybe some people in this, some demons, but I mean,
Yeah.
And Sam's like, this is God, heaven, the thing I've been praying to. Tries to reassure Sam here. And it's really sweet. I really like what he says here.
Just because there's a couple of bad apples doesn't mean the whole barrel's rotten. I mean, for all we know, God hates these jerks. Don't give up on this stuff, that's all I'm saying. Babe Ruth was a dick, but baseball's still a beautiful game.
We know the reason why that he doesn't want Sam to give up on this stuff is because, like, Dean knows how bad hell is, so he wants him to have hope.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't want Sam to lose his faith. I think for Sam, Dean recognizes how important faith is for Sam. I think with all the demon blood and stuff, like he knows that Sam kind of needs something to believe in, which is nice. I do like that. Also, I don't know if he's just trying to, like, up the chances of Sam going to heaven because, the odds are stacked against Sam on that front.
Yeah, they really are. The whole bit where he's like, Babe Ruth was a dick, but baseball is still a beautiful game. So what he's saying is, like, you can divorce the art from the artist, aka death of the author. Divorce heaven from God, maybe?
Divorce supernatural from the writer's room? I mean, we all love to do it.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, because, after such a heavy conversation, or like, they didn't get interrupted by a phone call, but Sam wants to move on. And he's looking through the context of the hex bag and picks up the bone, and says, it's difficult to char a bone this much, more than what a fire or a kitchen oven could do. Now,
Dean should also know because of all of the pyres they've built.
Oh yeah, there's another like thing I could write here. Is like, I think Dean might secretly be a little bit of an arsonist. There's something in that. There's a line later on as well, so you should know this.
Oh yeah, that line, yeah.
They figured that Tracy used the kiln to char the bone, but then they realized actually the hex bag turned up after they talked to the art teacher Dawn, not after they spoke to Tracy. And Sam's looking around the office and they see this bottom drawer that's got a lock on it. Uses a hammer to break open the lock.
Now.
There's just like a little tray of baby bones. Like, just leave the evidence behind. Sure, okay.
Why is that where you store your tray of baby bones?
Right?
Especially where, when they're doing the spell, there's obviously like where they live and like where you would store all of your stuff and whatever. Yeah, okay. So we cut to a park, and Sastiel and Uriel are sat on a bench and they're watching some kids in Halloween costumes. This line means so much more now, again, because I didn't really remember this episode going in.
The decision's been made.
By a mud monkey.
You shouldn't call them that.
And I took that as like Heaven's decision. I'm like, oh no, this is Dean's decision.
Yeah.
Because I didn't understand why he said by a mud monkey, and now I get it.
You're right. This conversation, unless you're really paying attention, doesn't make much sense unless you're rewatching the episode. Maybe I was being particularly dumb when I was watching it, but I also didn't pick up on it. I was just like, oh, okay, fine.
Are you also calling myself dumb? Fair.
Yeah, always.
I love the way that Uriel describes it describes humans. It makes me wonder what angels see when they look at humans, because he says they're savages just plumbing on legs. It's like, that's a really weird way to describe someone, especially since, like,
is there plumbing in heaven?
It makes me feel bad because I just once described a snake as just a tube, and now I'm like, maybe I was being a dick to the snake.
Yes, to all those snakes out there.
Is there a Mario angel? Like a plumber angel? Is Mario himself an angel?
I mean, maybe.
The motivations for saving Princess Peach, let's be real, is not to be righteous.
Oh, I thought it was more like Mario and Luigi. Are they like Michael and Lucifer? Like,
yeah! Okay. But then who's Bowser? And all of them?
who is Bowser? I mean, I would say I don't know.
Bowser is Luigi gone dark side.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And you know what that makes, like, Princess Peach? She's just Dean.
Yeah, she's Dean.
She's the princess that yeah. And the castle is hell. The castle's hell, and Mario's got to pull Peach out of hell.
Oh, there you go. There's some more fanfic ideas for you guys.
Yeah, I want to see the Mario, Luigi, Sastiel.
Because people were short on fanfic ideas.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that, like, Cass then says, you're close to blasphemy here, which, like, can we start looking at humans as, if you disrespect yourself, you're disrespecting God? How wonderful would that be, like, for some people to have that realization?
That's true, actually.
It also means you can't insult anyone, which is...
Yeah.
I don't know if I can go like that.
That's true. That is true.
Unless I want to be blasphemous, which, kind of.
I mean, here he's kind of comparing Uriel to Lucifer, because this is Lucifer's whole shtick,
Yeah.
He's hating humans,
Yeah, hating humans and thinking he's superior to them, and, a lot of the angels are on that, like, Lucifer train. Once you start, like, looking at their interactions with humans, you can see... You're almost like, why did Lucifer get singled out as being the one who, like, fell in this situation? Because a lot of the other angels are like dicks too.
He's probably just the one that was loudest about it.
That's what I think. Which, to be fair, then he's kind of justified. Just, here we go, hot take. Lucifer's kind of justified because, he was just kind of a scapegoat, really.
I mean, yeah. It depends. Did he actually try to, like, kill humans?
I can't remember what the...
Or was it just, like... Because I think the way Lucifer himself frames it is just that, like, I dared to love God more than his creations.
That's the thing, yeah.
But it's like, okay, that's your story.
That's how you tell it, like, yeah.
And the way Heaven tells it, I'm sure, is also skewed, so it's the answer somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Of, like, Lucifer tried to kill some humans, not that many.
Oh, tangent here. I don't know if they ever specify here whether other angels fell with Lucifer, like some of the commanders and, like, demons and the older demons in hell are fallen angels, or they are just demons. I think they kind of mentioned with Lilith that Lucifer made demons.
Yeah.
But it would have been cool if they had actually been fallen angels. Like, I think they are in
other stories,
stuff. I think
there are any, that initially fell with him in Supernatural. I think that's either, like, angels that fall later, or everyone else is, like, some degree of demon.
It would have added to the whole family feud thing that goes on,
Yeah.
Anyway.
So they continue to have their conversation, and Cass is like, well, it's out of our hands. There's nothing we can really do. Uriel again suggests that they just take Dean Winchester out of the town and just, eviscerate the town. And again, like, Cass puts such emphasis on, like, our true orders. And I was like, what does that even mean? And obviously, looking back on the rewatch, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
And he says, are you prepared to disobey? Which I'm guessing, the consequence is falling from heaven.
We think at this point.
Well, I mean, this is what happens to Cass in, like, the Rapture. So it's, like, maybe not initially getting kicked out of heaven, just, some like, torture, maybe.
Or, like, like, is that a reset?
It's now, so it was like dusk as they were talking. It's now nighttime, and we're following a group of kids, and they're trick-or-treating, but they avoid one particular house. And it's a house that Don is in, and he has Tracy stringed up camera choices were made with this. Basically doing the spell to summon the demon, and he goes over to her, puts the knife to her throat, and as Don's about to kill Tracy, he's shot from behind by either Sam or Dean. It's not really clear who. And they cut down Tracy. Tracy's like, oh, thank you. He was going to kill me. And then turns out that, twist, she's a bad guy. And apparently, Don is her brother.
Which, why? So, like, 2 seconds before they shoot him, he's, like, fondling her, like, upper boob with the knife.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's a lot going on there. I'm not happy about any of it.
There was zero reason for them to put this weird incest twist in this. Like...
It's like, so my understanding is that these witches are essentially demons and they're like body hopping, right? So it makes no sense as to why.
I bet you what it was is in a previous draft they were demons, and then they became they became witches in like the last draft, but like there was holdover of we don't see witches possess bodies like ever again, do we?
No.
I mean,
it's weird. It doesn't track with like the lore.
There was zero reason to make them siblings too. They could have had them be like the demons in Sin City, where they like are a couple through the seasons. You know, if they're gonna make it weirdly sexual, which they do, like,
and they continue to do in like a second.
Yeah, which they didn't need to do. You know, at least you could explain it, I guess, as like if they're hopping bodies, they're having some kind of like extended love story like the demons in Sin City, which was like better because at least their vessels were appropriately aged. It's just, why? There's no reason to make it this weird. Other than, I guess, because they're villains and it's an immoral thing that they're doing.
Well, they've got to continue like the propaganda of witches are like skeevy and pervy.
Yeah.
Didn't need to be brother and sister, but here we are. They are.
Yeah.
She does very much have demon powers because she throws Sam and Dean across the room.
Still a demon! They're demons! They're not witches, they're demons!
Well, so I guess, you know, they are very powerful witches because they are like 600 years old.
Okay, I'm gonna make a pass to the writers here. I'm gonna give them an out. So they're 600 years old, and they kind of mentioned in like Malleus Maleficarum that, you know, demons sell their souls to hell to get their powers, which I think again is retconned later because I don't think Rowena would have ever done that.
No,
and
yeah.
So maybe like the longer you live as a witch, the more kind of demon-y you get.
So basically, like demons on Earth.
Yeah, kind of. You know, they've already sold their soul or like corrupted it in some way. And that's kind of what happens to demons, right? Their souls kind of get corrupted. So maybe they do it on that like slow, gradual path because they're however old.
The implication being as soon as your soul is corrupted, you can body hop?
Maybe.
Who knows? I mean, maybe after long enough.
Powerful enough, you know. But
to be fair, there is an instance where essentially Rowena kind of, I always thought she body hopped because she gets killed, right? And then she does this kind of magic and appears again later as herself. And I always headcanoned that as she just had a spare body somewhere. Not that it necessarily regenerated, but that she's had a spare Rowena. In that like weird library. It was like under a glass case, like Snow White.
Yes, Snow White. Yeah. How old is Rowena?
I don't know when she got her powers because...
Old enough to be a MILF.
Yeah, old enough to be I guess like older than Crowley.
Yeah. That's a lot though.
Yeah, so it must have been, I think he said he like 14th century, but I think she was already a witch by the time she had Crowley, maybe.
Well, hold on. He's older than her because of hell time.
Oh, God.
Oh, no.
I'm dragging us out of this hole. Go on.
Too much to think about. Too much
math.
Yeah. So Tracy was going to be the final sacrifice, but now that Sam and Dean had killed him, he was the sacrifice. She gets down by Don's body and like makes him bleed into a cup or goblet, and starts another incantation. And
why don't only bad people get cool goblets?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, right.
Cool goblet.
She says, back in the day, this is the one day you kept your children inside, and now they're going to see what Halloween really is. Which is funny that she calls it Halloween instead of like All Hallows Eve. Like, I'm sure that's probably what she... Anyway. And then Sam does this really gross thing. He dips his hand into Don's blood and like wipes it on his face, and then just like does the same thing to Dean, and it's just like, oh, I hate it. I hate it so much.
It's like
got so much blood on their faces from people they've killed, plus themselves.
Yeah.
But like, there's a difference between like blood splattering on you and like dipping your hand in someone else's blood and just being like, I'm just gonna put it on my face. And so Tracy starts the incantation, and she manages to summon Samhain. He walks over and he possesses Don. I have a question. Why is it so much effort to summon this one demon? Or is it like storytelling gone crazy?
He's just like a real good demon. Like, he's just really good. He's just a really old one. So it's harder.
Well, okay, so they had to kill 3 people at like the right time. The dude clearly had like 3 seals to release him.
Yeah.
From hell. He had like a little mini like thing of what Lucifer had.
I think
also, like, summoning demons, like, generally when they summon demons, they're already on Earth, but she's summoning a demon from hell, so maybe it's different.
all right, okay, I'll give you that.
I mean, there's this cool bit where like the floor like cracks open and the smoke comes out. I love it. That's pretty cool. I liked that.
Yeah, definitely. Because he's possessed Don, he walks over to Tracy and she says, "My love," and they kiss, which is gross because they're supposed to be brother and sister, or maybe not because they're in different bodies. I don't know.
Well, but now it's Samhain and
yeah, so maybe she doesn't associate the vessel with her brother, which I could, okay, fine.
And he says, "You've aged," and she says, "This face, I can't fool you." He responds with, your beauty is beyond time," and then just like breaks her neck and calls her a whore.
What is it with calling witches whores in this episode? Not this episode, series.
Series.
It's because witches are like classically like a female like empowerment, like it's women taking control of their lives.
Yeah.
And there's, you know, like from like a sexism point of view, like there's no bigger whore than a woman that like doesn't need a man and that can protect herself.
Which is crazy, right?
And is maybe a threat to man. Yeah.
And at this point, we haven't seen any like male witches. They have all been women as far as we know.
Which male witches are whores. They're very, very slutty.
That actually is a stereotype that's true.
So Sam and Dean are playing dead on the floor, and Samhain has horrible vision, like triple vision, like he can't really see anything properly.
It's like no, the demon, like there's something intrinsic to the demon's soul that gives him bad eyesight, which is hilarious.
It's very funny. He just needs some glasses.
Yeah.
Like, they should have got this demon some glasses. Maybe it would have solved all of his issues, and maybe he wouldn't want to end the world anymore because he wasn't like super angry about not being able to see things. Just, you know, healthcare solves everything, really.
They invented contact since you were last on Earth.
Yeah. You don't have to. I mean, maybe they didn't have glasses last time, you know, Samhain was about, so who knows?
It was the first, like, eyeglasses.
I feel like ancient Egypt. I feel like
right?
I read that once.
That seems like an old thing.
Either way, plot point, it works.
Yeah. This is why I wrote in my notes, "I heart Sam," because like this line is just peak Sam Winchester.
People used to wear masks to hide from him. So I gave it a shot. You gave it a shot?
It has Route 666 energy.
Yeah. It's just like, I thought it might work.
He's the lore boy. Trust the lore boy.
It's the I'll say an exorcism backwards and it will reverse exorcise a demon, because, why not?
Yeah, that's so good. I love that sight of Sam. They're just like accidentally like smart Sam. It's really funny.
There's something about Sam that has big like scientist energy, because sometimes you just try things and you're like, well, it should work.
Like mad scientist,
right?
Like inventor energy. I mean, he's got long hair. If he just kind of made it spikier, then he would really look the part.
Absolutely, yeah. Oh man.
And Dean's just like in disbelief, and also probably like relieved.
Yeah.
You'd think over the years he would learn to trust Sam's instinct on this like crazy stuff that he does sometimes, but I don't think that ever, like, whenever Sam does it, Dean's like,
it's his younger brother.
Yeah.
Because when Dean does it, it's a good idea. Like, again, with the tulpa.
That's true. No, when Dean wants to burn things down, it's a good idea. Adding to my arsonist theory.
Listen, there's something called reenactment of trauma, where like you repeat bad things that were done to you.
Oh no!
Yeah, I went there.
Oh, Danny, you made that so worse. I love it.
That's my role in this podcast. I make things work.
I am coming for you. I'm coming for your role. Watch your back.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I like turn and like do like the villain thing of like smirking at the camera.
Oh my god. That's made any time that Dean's going to set anything on fire like a million times worse, so cheers, thanks for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. So we see Sam Hain walking down the street, covered in his blood. There's loads of kids about, so they don't really care. It's Halloween. He looks like he's in a costume. Sam and Dean kind of... They don't follow him because they I guess they waited till he left. So they come out of the house and we're like, we've got to find this guy, as they're wiping blood from their face. Sam immediately has another he just pulls this out of literally nowhere. He's just, where do you go to raise other dark forces? And Dean's like, oh, the cemetery. And Sam's like, yeah, the cemetery. And it's like, okay, we're going to the cemetery, I guess. They get back in the Impala and have a conversation. Sam says, this demon's pretty powerful. Dean's like, yeah. Sam's like, might take more than the usual weapons. So... Dean's like, no, you can't use your psychic powers in this case. Ruby's knife should be enough.
I love this. He's like, you can't use your psychic powers that Ruby is helping you develop. So let's use Ruby's knife.
Right? Definitely better.
Either way, it's from Ruby.
Exactly. She's
but a knife is something, he trusts because it's a weapon. Unlike,
Does it ever not become Ruby's knife?
It's considered, I think, later as Sam's knife, because like Dean's got his like fancy gun, and then for like when people depict them in like art and stuff and sort of merchandise, it's always like Dean's gun and like Sam's demon killing knife, I think.
Well, I mean, I think they definitely think of it as theirs, but they might call it Ruby's knife because I don't know why they don't name the weapons. Like they should do that.
Yeah, like I wanted to see like Dean call his grenade launcher like Big Bertha or something.
Yeah.
Great. One of the reasons Dean's against it is because the angels said so, which is super interesting at this point.
He didn't need any reason to be against Sam's freaky ESP stuff.
No. He's watched Star Wars enough, like he knows where this is going.
Yeah. But Luke, wait. Luke has powers and he doesn't go dark side.
Yeah, it's true. But I don't know. Does he think...
Dean, that's just what it is. Dean thinks of himself as Luke and Sam as Anakin.
Yeah. Had the prequels...
Well, actually, no, he thinks of himself as Han Solo, but...
Yeah.
Yes, I think the first prequel came out in like the late 90s.
Yeah, so he knows. He thinks he's going to go dark side. Sam says, I don't know, you said they were a bunch of fanatics. And Dean's like, yeah, but, you know, I said that, but because they agree with me about this, they're right.
Well, he's looking for confirmation bias because he's always been skeptical of his powers before the angels are like, tell him to stop doing it. Yeah. Right? So it's just confirmation bias.
I mean, what is Dean if not looking for confirmation bias?
Yeah, it's like he just Googles, is psychic powers bad? And sends Sam the only article he can find that says, yes, they are bad.
100%. Like WebMD. Yes, you shouldn't be getting headaches and nosebleeds, so psychic powers.
If your psychic powers give you headache and nosebleeds, that's a sure indication that it is in fact evil psychic powers from the devil.
I like the idea that he's just every now and then Sam gets emails from Dean with these articles in, just like, stop using your psychic powers or psychic powers.
Because it's coming from Dean, it's like in the subject line, like you couldn't even put it in the body of the email.
I don't know, Dean. Doesn't seem like they're right about much.
Forget the angels, okay? You said yourself, these powers, it's like playing with fire.
Because I believe it was, not last episode, but the episode before, where he was like, I'm going to stop using them because they seem bad.
Dean does play with fire in this episode.
He does play We're back there. Dean gives the knife to Sam, and the demon-killing knife. So they get to the mausoleum. Earlier in the episode, the teenagers had said there was a mausoleum party on Halloween, so they're all there.
All 5 of them.
all 5 of them, yeah. And the
mausoleum party. What is this, Buffy?
Right? And they think they hear the cops, but it's actually Sam Hain. And they're like, oh, it's Don, the art teacher. And he just comes up and closes the gate and locks it and kind of smirks at them and walks away.
It's super weird. It's like really awkward.
It's really weird.
They just like rattle it like, hey, can you come back?
Like, what?
How did he lock that so easily? Like, he can't see.
Well, did he have a key or was it like a deadbolt?
Was it a padlock? Because I questioned later how this gets opened.
So I think the key was probably already in the lock. He just closed the door. Those kids could have broke that door.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't think it's a padlock. I think it's just like a regular, like lock and key.
Victorian lock thing. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So the crypts in this mausoleum start to rattle, and then this zombie pokes out and kills one of the teenagers, but like it looks like he kind of dragged him into some kind of like grinder because the blood just sprays back out of that. It was wild. And obviously all the teenagers freak out. Sam and Dean must hear them screaming because they come running down the stairs, and Sam just says to Dean, like, help them, and runs off, where Dean's like, no, you're not okay. Sam just runs off. Sam runs after Sam Hain, and then Dean waits and he motions to the teenagers to move back from the door, and this is what I was wondering. He shoots the lock. That's why I thought it was a padlock, because I don't think that works either. Why would you, if it was on the flat on the... No, look, okay, supernatural logic. He shoots the lock and guns equal okay, so he just gets through the thing.
Guns solve everything, don't you know that?
Yeah, guns solve it. They count as lockpicks and monster-killing devices. Dean gets all the teenagers out. A zombie comes up and, another one crawls out. And Dean kind of holds up his silver stake and says, bring it on, Stinky. Who are you talking to, Dean? The zombie doesn't care. So Sam's gone to look through the rest of the mausoleum, which is huge, by the way. It had, stained glass windows and stuff.
Yeah! This is a nice mausoleum.
It's real nice.
They went down some steps. So is this part of the mausoleum that had the stained glass?
Is this under a church? What is it?
But if it's built into a hill, you could maybe have a window. That might make sense why you would go down steps and there to be a window. But again, they did it for the aesthetic, Annabelle.
Okay, all right.
Season 4 is very good at the aesthetic.
It wasn't. Yeah. So Sam Hain's facing away from Sam as he walks in, and he turns around and tries to kind of do what Lilith did to Sam. It's like a bright white light.
Well, he tries to smite him because I guess demons have smiting powers.
Yeah. When Lilith did it, it was almost like some kind of explosion, like some kind of demon bomb thing that she sets off. But I don't know if that was just like because it affected the gas pipes in the police station. I'm not sure, or like what it does.
That could be evidence of like they're actually fallen angels. Would be if they have the smiting power.
Yeah. Hey.
So it does look really similar to the angel smiting.
It absolutely does. You're right. I mean, Sam calls it a demon ray gun, which is kind of cool. But just dismisses it because he's a badass demon boy. I really like...
I will not on a t-shirt.
You're a badass demon boy.
What are the odds that they chose Sam Hain as like, whatever the baddie for this episode? Because it's like Sam Hain and Sam's evil with the demon blood and Boy King, and like they're making a point in this episode about Sam's like powers. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think the writers are really simple and it all comes down to like word association.
I mean, I could believe it. So they're being real clever here. It's like, oh, this guy's associated with Halloween and his name has Sam in it too. Like, we've hit the jackpot, guys.
Yeah, this feels like a Kripke thing, right?
So Sam Hain runs at Sam, and I really like Sam's uppercut that he does here. I don't know, I just thought it was really great. They have a whole fight. We cut back to Dean fighting zombies, and he's just like staking one after the other with these silver stakes. I'm like, how many does he have with him, and why does he have that many?
Well, so I'm guessing the way that they've established with Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, that a stake through the chest is how you kill zombies in this world. So
but he has multiple solid silver stakes with him.
So they made a whole bunch after. He wants to fight zombies. So he
wants
prepared
to be
to fight zombies.
Fine.
So is it like, solid silver? Like,
I believe so, yeah.
They could be so rich if they have solid silver.
Right?
And they're huge too.
Also, what wouldn't it be just enough for it to be like silver, like coated, like plated or whatever? Either way, getting silver is like through the body.
Possibly. I know, because silver's quite soft, really.
Just saying, like, economically speaking.
It's not good. And they don't need to be so huge. Surely silver plating must work.
But can you fight zombies on a budget? These are the important questions.
It's important hunter questions, yeah, for sure.
I mean, because they got to save that silver for the bullets too. Like, there's a lot of silver they're getting through.
They are raiding like antique shops on the daily.
Well, okay, no. You know why they have enough silver for all this stuff? Yeah. It's because all these guys were like preppers before they became hunters, and they had like silver buried in their yard. I mean, like every prepper does.
I can fully believe that. I mean,
for the apocalypse,
definitely could have inherited these from John, or Bobby probably has a bunch of stuff lying around his house. They're all secret millionaires.
If Bobby hasn't buried silver at some point as like a backup, I'll just eat my hat.
Right. Bobby, who built a bunker in a weekend, doesn't have stashed gold and silver.
Yes, right.
Unbelievable.
So he manages to kill, it shows him killing 2 of these zombies with the stakes, and then a woman appears behind him and he tries to stake her, but she's a ghost. And
so she like flickers away.
Yep. Flies him across the room.
Zombie ghost orgy, huh? Well, that's it. I'm torching everybody.
It's really good. It's a really funny line.
I just like that. He's like, do you know what? I'm out. I'm going to burn the place down.
It's like, that's too many different types of monsters. Fire!
It's not even the first time. Like we said, in the Tulpa, they didn't know how to get rid of it. So he was like, guess we just burn the place down. Fire is not always the answer, Dean, but I mean, yeah.
He just imprinted on fire at a young age.
He really, really did.
Yeah.
Oh.
I hate that, but I love it.
Sam and Sam Hain are still fighting. Sam does get the knife out, tries to stab Sam Hain, but it kind of like sizzles in his skin and gets pushed out of his hand. And then Sam gets thrown away from him. As he stands back up, Sam decides to use his psychic powers instead to stop Sam Hain coming towards him. And
because now he's weaponless, yeah?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. It's very Jedi. It is. He's got his hand out. He's getting a headache. He's clearly...
struggling to lift a rock.
Right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
he's clearly using a lot of energy to like keep this guy back. 'Cause he's very strong because he's still managing to advance on Sam even like against his psychic power. We see Sam's nose start to bleed. What's interesting is Dean appears in the doorway while this is happening and just doesn't try to help Sam.
Well, he's like shocked. Yeah, I guess. He has seen it before, but it's different this time because Sam's struggling so much, and he kind of looks a little bit like it's killing him,
right? But
yeah,
there's almost like a morbid curiosity in Dean there, like he kind of wants to see how this plays out because he could have run up and like tried to stab Samhain or something at this point. I feel I think you're right. I think he's just in shock seeing Sam like this. But he has seen it before, but maybe not to this extent. I thought his expression was good. I mean, eventually Sam manages to exorcise Samhain. He's really close to him. I like the visual that initially the smoke's coming out of his bullet wounds and then eventually comes out of his mouth. He like chokes back up this demon goop. I really like you're right. The choking up of the demon blood's such a good visual.
Demon smoke.
Yeah, demon smoke. Thank you. And he manages to do it. And as Don drops to the ground, Sam and Dean kind of make some eye contact. And Sam looks at him pretty kind of sad, disappointed. I don't know. Yeah, it's a look.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I didn't catch exactly where Dean was looking, but do you think his initial reaction was like, Sam ignored me and is using the powers and didn't even try?
Yeah, maybe he thought what I thought, like, where's the knife? Why is he not trying to use the knife here?
No, I mean, I think, at least by the end of it, I think the look on Dean's face is just like, he realizes, oh, maybe there is a use to this power, and maybe this is doomed. Maybe we're just, like, screwed here. Because of, like, you know what I mean? Of just, like, maybe there is occasions where he'll have to use it, in which case my brother's soul is doomed. Sure. The tragedy of, like, Sam would have died here if he hadn't used his powers kind of thing. Of, like, oh, crap.
Yeah, that's totally right. Like, there's no situation there Sam's never going to use this again because the demons are after us, the seals are breaking. He's going to need to... Oh, damn. Supernatural, why?
And also at this point, like, there really hasn't been that many consequences of Sam using his powers, and each time that he's used them, like, it's been in defense, right? And he's not seeing where it's really going, whereas once Sam really stops using his powers is because of, you know, Lucifer has possessed him at this point.
It's probably also harder for Dean to be super mad at Sam here because Sam's like was bleeding from doing this. Like, it doesn't look like something Sam wanted to do because, like, Sam's hurt now.
It's the realization of the extent his brother's going to go to kind of win. Yeah, you know, even to the extent of hurting himself through using these powers.
It's all very tragic.
It's all very tragic. It's all very self-sacrificing, tragic. It's very Winchester. Yeah.
We were all thinking it.
Yeah. Right. We got to the end, guys. We're at the epilogue. We did it.
We're here.
It's like 6 scenes left.
Yeah.
They won. It says one day after Halloween. It's November 1st.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, November 2nd. It's an anniversary for you, right?
What are you doing here?
It's the day Azazel killed your mother. And 22 years later, your girlfriend, too. It must be difficult to bear. Yet you brazenly used the power he gave you.
So is this the first date we've heard for the Mary and Jessica's death? Is this the first time we've heard of it as being the 2nd of November?
No, I think... And I'm just guessing here, but I'm pretty sure. I think it's subtitled in the pilot.
Okay.
But I'm not 100%. So you might be right. This might be the first reference.
By the way, when we first see Uriel, he's just like sitting on this like bright green couch. The motel room. It's really weird. It's just like it's an odd shot of him just like sitting there on this garish couch.
One thing though, okay, sorry to bring this back to dates and stuff, but the only way that makes sense that April 2nd, what am I talking about? November 2nd being Jessica's death is that they went to a Halloween party like a week before Halloween. Because they go, like, if it was Halloween night that they went to that party, that means they found the woman in white, killed her, somehow had a day, like, I mean, it could be possible.
They drove far away, right? It was in a different...
It was still in California.
Yeah. How much time passed during that pilot?
You're right.
It would have been at least like 2 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe they went to a Halloween party on the 30th, because maybe it was like a Friday night or something.
You're totally right that I've never made this connection before, because I always knew it was November 2nd.
Yeah.
I guess no, okay, but it's not like they have got 2 days. Like if it's Halloween, they've got November 1st, and then they come back on the night of November 2nd. So they have 2 days.
Well, I mean, how much did they do in that episode that would have taken a lot of time?
I'm trying to think, like, how many nights. I think there are only 2 nights.
There's the first night, like, which would have been the Halloween, that would have been the night after the party, right?
Yeah.
When Dean breaks in. And then there's the night where they actually kill the woman in white, or, like, not really. And that takes place at night. Is there another evening?
I think, because there's the one where there's the ghost car and Dean jumps off the bridge. It's a different night, right?
Yeah, right?
We're missing the day.
That's not the same night that he breaks into the apartment, surely.
It's not. It's not, I don't think.
Well, look.
So that could have been November 1st, and then... So could they have gotten back to Sam's and Jessica's apartment the same night that they, like, finished the case?
Are they saying that, like, November 2nd night is sort of like early morning November 3rd? Like, you know how you say it's like that
or would
night?
It have been like 11 p.m. November 2nd. Yeah, right. This is my brain.
Sorry.
I think maybe it worked, but I don't know. Look, Chuck's a crappy writer, so...
That's true. Anything in Supernatural could be excused because Chuck is a crappy writer, or he's a liar, or he's horny. It's basically all of it.
Anyway, come back on track. Uriel just basically scolds Sam. He says, you were told not to use your abilities. And Sam argues of saying, what was I supposed to do? The demon would kill me and my brother and everyone else. And Uriel's just like, no, you were told not to, and that's it. He basically is just like, you were told, you've been warned twice now.
My brother was right about you. You are dicks.
Which Uriel doesn't rise to the bait. This really has to be really heartbreaking for Sam, because an angel is telling him that, the reason you're still alive is because you're useful. Mm-hmm. But the moment that you this ceases to be true and you're more trouble than you're worth, I'll turn you to dust.
It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
It's such a parallel to the scene in 402 where Cass is in the kitchen with Dean and is like, I could throw you back into hell if you don't show me respect. But, like, this is so much crueler. Yeah, it's a lot more evil.
Because Sam believed in them, he believed that he was doing good and that he was on the right side of things by using his powers. He's basically just, again, being confirmed by angels that he doesn't matter. What he did, they don't have any interest in him. They're only letting him live.
Safety.
Yeah, because... he's not a threat to them at the moment. So it's awful for Sam.
If I had this encounter with an angel, I'd start drinking demon blood too, just to, like, give them the finger.
To spite them.
Yeah.
Well, and, like, Uriel comes here just to, like, throw his weight around and, like, insult Sam. Like, there's no need for this conversation to happen, especially given what we know about Uriel later on. Yeah. He doesn't actually care that Sam used, like, his powers.
No, exactly. Like, this is it. It's just to be a dick. He's just there to be a dick.
He just wants to feel like a big man.
Or is it he knows that this is not going to have the effect that he wants, as in, like, him telling Sam to stop doing something is actually going to turn Sam to do it more. They don't really want the apocalypse to happen, but they kind of do, because Uriel doesn't care about the humans, right? So he's okay for them to be wiped out. Encouraging Sam to actually go down the dark path, Uriel gets what he wants. like reverse psychology kind of. I know I'm using that term wrong, but like reverse psychology kind of thing.
I think
3D chess.
It is 3D, kind of 3D chess on the Angels Party, right?
A lot of Heaven and Hell is doing that in this season, so it's fair.
I mean, having the brothers against each other as well is very much good for their cause at this point.
Right. Exactly, because he then goes on to say, as for your brother, tell him that maybe he should climb off his high horse, and then says, ask Dean what he remembers from hell.
It's just such a dick move because, again, he's basically saying, like, you know, Dean's been judging you this whole time for demon powers or whatever, but you have no idea what he is, kind of. You know, like, you don't know what he did. I don't think Dean should have to share what happened to him in hell with anybody. Like, this is one of the things I fully on the Dean train of not telling anyone what happened in hell.
No, but that's the thing. It's not about what happened to him. Like, that's like, the high horse thing is specifically a reference to what Dean did in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, you can make the argument, like, people don't have the right to keep secrets about the bad things they've done, I guess. I don't know.
Because for all intents and purposes, Dean was a demon in hell for, like, a decade or whatever. So it is a bit rich of him to come up and tell Sam not to do something. But then again, he's like, well, don't do it because I see where it leads.
Yeah,
there's context that Dean's not sharing with Sam that would actually be useful to his argument for him to stop using demon power.
I mean, even aside from just like caring about Sam on like a certain level, if Sam goes to hell, whether that's like now or ever, Dean, it's got to feel like what Dean did, like Dean's sacrifice was worthless then, right?
Yeah.
Like from like Dean's perspective, it would feel so useless of like, no matter what I did, my brother ended up in hell. That sucks.
That real sucks. I think we all can agree that this was an unnecessary confrontation, but it definitely plays into a lot of angst in the next few episodes, I feel.
Well, and it's such an interesting contrast to the next scene between an Angel and a Winchester. And I think that's maybe the point of it.
That's true.
Yeah. Definitely, because so we can get into that a little bit here. So Dean is sat outside watching like the world essentially, and it shows that Cass is sat on another bench next to him.
Let me guess. You're here for the I told you so.
No,
Oh, good, because I'm really not that interested.
I am not here to judge you, Dean.
This is absolutely the complete opposite of what Uriel just did to Sam. Dean's questioning why Cass is there. Dean's like, I've had enough of these orders. Give me more information, essentially. And Cass says, our orders were not to stop the summoning. They were to do whatever you told us to do.
They were testing Dean, yeah.
Yeah, to see how he would perform under battlefield conditions.
As you said, they were doing the trolley problem on Dean. They were seeing if he would sacrifice a town to save the rest of the world, in their opinion. And he didn't. He chose the town.
And that's part of, like, Uriel's almost disobeying earlier on, is, like, he still wants to nuke the town.
Yeah.
And even though they have orders to do whatever Dean says. And it's... Yeah, it's part of, like, Uriel's not great at obeying, now is he?
Exactly.
Well, he doesn't want to obey something inferior. That's the thing, isn't it?
Ironically, this is one of the quote-unquote orders from heaven that Cass is really good at obeying.
Yeah.
is listening to Dean here.
This is it. Like, I think this episode shows there's kind of they both had the same orders, like Cass and Uriel, and they both interpreted them differently and both thought that they were right.
Because there's actually no confirmation. So Dean says, so I failed your test. And he says, you know, if you could do the whole time travel thing again, I would do it over and over again. It doesn't matter.
You misunderstand me, Dean. Not like you think. I was praying that you would choose to save the town.
You were.
These people, they're all my father's creations.
Which means there was never a correct answer.
It's not one that they were given, yeah.
What's interesting is the framing of this, because they are in a park and they're sat on benches and they're on two different...
Talk about that too.
Yeah. They're on they're on two different benches, but they're like sat together essentially. And I think that it kind of shows that they're on different sides at this point, right? There is a barrier between them.
They're so close.
But they're so close. Exactly.
Well, did you notice? So there's the scene earlier where Cass is talking to Uriel like in the park, and they're like sitting on a bench.
Yeah.
And the way that is framed is it's a mirror of this, so they're facing a different way. Like the benches are facing different ways, and we hear the kids playing in the park in the background where we don't see them. And then now we've got this scene where Dean and Cass are sitting on benches, and the benches are facing towards facing the other way, and now we actually get to see the kids playing.
Yeah.
And they're on two different benches, but they're right next to each other, and it's like a complete like mirror where before, you know, Uriel and Cass were sitting underneath like a tree and like the shade, and then now like Cass and Dean are sitting in like the sunlight. It's like a complete like it's cool. It's really well shot.
I love it so much. Yeah, it's really, really good. And it definitely, like the relationship between Cass and Uriel seems very tense, even though I believe in that they are sat even closer here than Cass and Dean are.
Yeah.
But there's, I don't know, there's even while Cass is talking to Dean in this scene, Dean does this gesture where he kind of like, he puts his elbows on his knees and kind of leans forward, and then Cass mirrors him in that action as well. And I don't know, it's amazing.
Well, and some of the shots of Dean over like Cass's shoulder or whatever, it kind of makes it look like they're sitting on the same bench.
It does, yeah.
Which is very cool.
They're so close to being on the same, like thinking the same and being on the same side, but there's just something between them at the moment, and anyway.
Well, and for the record, the guy that directed this episode, Charles Besson, he also does Sex and Violence, The Rapture, Changing Channels, The French Mistake.
Yeah.
You know, so he does some like big episodes that are notable in part for how good they look.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So Dean is sort of shocked that Cass is on his side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that he was hoping for this outcome, because Cass values basically God's creation. He calls them works of art.
But he says that he prayed for Dean to choose to save the town.
Yeah,
which is super intense.
But ultimately, they did fail because the seal was broken. It's a little bit of whiplash, because he was like, yeah, I hope that you didn't kill the town, but you also didn't save the day.
Yeah.
It kind of confirms to Cass, I feel, that Dean is like the righteous man almost. Like he chose the right option. It may not have been the pragmatic option, the Vulcan option of sacrificing this town for the greater good, but ultimately it is the morally right choice.
Right.
But he knows that by making the right choice, you are kind of dooming everybody anyway. But at least Dean didn't.
Which isn't that like the cast
Exactly. It's like, well, you might kill everybody, but at least you're not compromising your own morals doing it.
I tell you something if you promise not to tell another soul.
Okay.
I'm not Hammer, as you say. I have questions. I have doubts. I don't know what is right and what is wrong anymore.
Hey!
Hey!
Call out Danny. And he is very much questioning, like, he doesn't know what's right and what is wrong anymore.
Yeah, he does look really sad there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Cass is gone.
There are many. I wrote down every time Dean and Cass stared at each other in this episode, and I didn't mention them at all. But this is one of them before he kind of disappears, because it cuts to a wide shot of them and Cass is gone.
And then it fades to black. I'm like, Dean looking pensive.
Looking where he has gone. The other times they're kind of staring at each other and stuff is in that hotel room with Uriel, which is super funny to me.
There's the one shot of Cass like staring at Dean in the motel, and he does that thing that he did in Lazarus Rising where he looks like he's reading Dean's soul.
Yeah.
It's like really intense. It's like, dude, you can't just like do that in front of anybody. That's super personal. Sam is right there. But he just looks like he's absolutely like seeing into Dean. It's very, yeah.
Yeah. And Dean looks uncomfortable, yet he still maintains eye contact.
I know.
It's like, I will not break. I will not break first. These two scenes, as we've said, are like they hurt both Sam and Dean in different ways. Because obviously Sam gets a physical threat from something that he admires in angels, and like that kind of gets crushed. And then Dean here, even though again, like I was saying, he got lifted up but torn down.
The danger of like there's maybe an angel that he could trust a little bit.
Yeah.
Of like there's like a fear of like, can I trust heaven? Can I not? Like, is Cass? Can I actually work with Sastiel or not? You know, it's such an interesting scene of I think Dean realizes that Cass is different here.
Yeah, so because what they did here was actually really clever. They introduced Uriel, who is
such an asshole.
Yeah, but we kind of then see him as a proxy for all other angels. I don't know why that happened, that, you know, Cass gets kind of, you know, why aren't all other angels kind of like Cass? But that's not how this episode reads. It reads as like all other angels are like Uriel. They kind of don't really care about humans, and yet Cass is different.
Well, and part of what tells us that Cass is different is that he's like, can I tell you something if you promise not to tell anyone?
Yes.
Like, it's like the implication that Cass can't share this with other angels. That, I mean, first of all, it's insane that he's sharing this like intense secret with Dean after barely knowing him.
I know.
But it's also like, this is theoretically something that can get him in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Like this admission here.
This is also setting up the parallels between Ruby and Cass. They are both a demon that Sam can trust, even though he shouldn't. But we don't know that yet.
Yeah,
not really.
On the surface, a demon that Sam can trust, yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is for Dean, this is an angel that he can trust. Now that we've seen that angels are dicks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the contrast of like, Uriel doesn't care about any of these humans, and then Cass is like, all people are works of art, and I was praying that you would save the town. It's like there's such a huge difference there. Yeah. It couldn't be more different.
I think this was because if you think about it, if you've watched Supernatural up to this point and kind of not known who Cass is, you're like, why is he so aggressive towards Dean, like threatening to throw him back into hell? Like, what is his agenda? And then this is where this episode, I feel, really started to humanize Cass, because you do see that he's not just a robot. He's kind of, he is questioning. He has doubts about his orders, just as Dean used to when he was interacting with John.
It's like, well, I was raised Christian, and I gotta tell you, like, having doubts is not allowed.
Yeah.
At least not the way I was raised. And then if you take that to like up to 11 with, you know, being an angel, you know, and all of that, it's like, oh wow, having questions and not being sure of things as an angel, that's gotta be just like it, you know, like that's gotta be like the biggest like offense, like the biggest crime.
And you're right, and the fact that he is confiding this in Dean, and I don't know if Dean fully recognizes how much of an admission that is for Cass at this point. I don't know if he fully like understands the weight of what Cass is telling him, that he is questioning his orders and doesn't fully understand if the plan is correct.
I think he kind of realizes. I mean, I think the next couple times we see them interact, Dean seems, from my memory at least, it seems like Dean does kind of see Cass as more, like, for lack of a better word, more human now.
Yeah. For me, it's not necessarily what he told him. It's that he told him. Like, you know, the fact that he's sharing a secret with him. I don't know. I love it so much. I can't wait to see them again in another episode together and just, like, see where this conversation follows on from. Where it goes. Because it's been so long since I've watched season 4.
I mean, this episode, like, thematically, I think is like succeeded. It's like followed up by On the Head of a Pin. Yes. For both of them, really, you know, it's all very, I don't know. Cass's, like, journey with doubt is pretty tense.
I mean, it's his whole thing. It's his whole thing.
I mean, that is 100%, like, that is kind of what defines him. And that's also, like, why he stayed on the show, right? Yeah. That's why he became a permanent part of Supernatural, is because he was different than the other angels, and he was this iconic and this, again, sort of human, this personable, I don't know, personable is the wrong word, but
you're right. He humanized the supernatural in Supernatural, if that makes sense. So, like, the thing is, the brothers are they're always fighting against the next thing, but Cass kind of was always trying to do that, but have a big picture side of stuff as well. And it never really goes right for him, but he does exactly what he says to Dean here. Like, he's trying to save the most number of people without compromising his own morals. Not necessarily his own safety, but I don't know. I mean, Cass makes some questionable choices, but I feel like, and those are big mistakes that he makes later on.
Fairly, you know, by the end of this season, Cass has basically decided that heaven is expendable to protect Earth, to protect humans, which that's a big deal. And it's maybe not something that, like, Sam and Dean can ever, like, value, but, like, that's the Charlie problem of, you know, it's choosing to run over angels so that the humans on the tracks get spared.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big deal. That's his species, man.
I mean, he essentially chooses one family over another.
And, like, genocides the other family. And you know what? He's so sexy for doing that.
I think that's all we can agree. Every time I watch an episode of Cass, me and Anna would, like, send little messages. Oh, you know, have you watched the episode? Are you ready yet? And every single time I just send a message that's like, Cass is really good in this episode. He looks exactly the same as he looked at last episode, but damn.
Well, seasons 4 and 5 are, like, really sexy seasons visually.
They just are, generally.
They all look great.
I'm truly enjoying rewatching season 4. Like, it's been so good so far. There's not been a single real terrible episode yet. So I love this episode. I forgot how important this episode was. We're only 7. We're on episode 7, and it's already just, I don't know. I feel like every time we watch a plot-heavy episode, it just takes a left turn that you kind of weren't always expecting. And this one was Cass, because, he's my boy.
Yeah, this is such a vital Cass episode.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise, I think stuff later in the season would feel like it comes out of nowhere.
100%. Like, this is important. This is required watching.
If you want to learn how Cass becomes Cass, you need to watch this episode.
Yeah.
So next week we're going to be talking about wishful thinking, and I love so usually on, like, IMDb, like, I'll go look at what the description of the episode is going to be. The description of this episode is literally one sentence. And I'm like, okay, that's not helpful. So I'm excited to see where this leads us. It is directed by Robert Singer, so expect those zooms.
Yeah. Ooh.
And
Teddy bear.
Oh, so, no. I don't want to watch this one again.
Yeah, it's a teddy bear.
Can I veto an episode?
No. We decided we weren't going to do that.
I know.
We're going to watch them all because there might be something important in it. We just don't know.
So before I finish up with socials and things, is there anything else anyone would like to say about this episode right here, right now? Are we good?
Cass is hot.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Okie. Thank you. At the end of this episode, I'd like to thank the Pixel Agora for his wonderful art on our podcast. Please go to Redbubble if you would like to purchase something as a cool logo, like on a bag or a coaster, or I don't know. I want to buy a t-shirt. That's my next thing. If you would like to talk to us, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and Facebook as well at Escaping Purgatory Podcast or Escaping Podcast. And of course, we would like to thank Danny for their participation in this episode. I believe you can find Danny at I Have Doubts on Tumblr. I will link their blog in the description.
Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
We're so happy to have you back. You're a wonderful guest, and so much. Yes. We have so much fun with you.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. I had an absolute blast, both this time, but also before. Like, I've been looking forward to this for months since the last recording.
I'm so glad because we were looking forward to it too.
Yeah. By evidence, I mean, it's not going to be this long, but we have been recording for like 4 hours now. That's how much fun we've been having.
We have so much extra content here.
So expect a lot of bloopers from this episode.
Yeah. I mean, come on. What, can I pay you to keep in like the dick with wings?
I mean, I will keep it in. I don't care.
Yes! Thirstiest podcast!
Okay. So this week, we met a few more friends and found someone else to help us on our way. We interacted with the dick with wings. The many dicks with wings. And, but we're still stuck. So hopefully next week we'll find our way out.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.